Hey, Style here. Welcome to the Lost Media Vault. This is episode 1, and to kick it off, we're going to open with an episode that I've been asked about personally many times that was only ever broadcast once as a second hour of the Rebel Radio Show while we were still at CBW Radio, and it's a show that recently I've been asked about several times and have had to dig up the audio for to send out to specific people that have asked. It's the second hour to our Scientology and Catholicism conspiracy from October 9th, 2023. So if you want to hear the first hour of it, be sure to go back and check out episode 179 of the Rebel Radio Show. But for that elusive second hour that's since been taken down off Facebook and anywhere else it's been streamed, here it is on the Lost Media Vault. Welcome back to the Rebel Radio Show, live, uncut, and uncensored on CBW Radio. To my right is Shani.
Hey, everyone.
On the board is Jules.
Hello.
I'm Radio's Rebel DJ Style. Of course, we are in the thick of it in October now. Every year.
I haven't done
year,
that was
show.
The first one. I'm sorry. That was really loud. I got really excited.
Xenu?
Sorry to my listeners at home.
Xenu?
I got really excited about Xenu.
Talking to me?
Let's raise energy.
It's all that raise energy from repsports.com, and it gets you pumped up.
Promo code CBW70.
15% off at checkout. If you joined us during the last hour, we dove into... I want to say we dove into Scientology, but we dove into a little bit of Scientology.
Yeah, we really
We hit the keynotes, I think.
We talked about it for an hour, and we got a good amount in that hour, but we could
do at least 4 hours easy.
If you're really interested in learning more, I recommend the HBO documentary Going Clear, Scientology and the Prison of Belief.
I also recommend the interview that's available right now on
well.
stylesrebelradio.com. I got to sit down with Tim. He's a 30-year Scientologist in OT5, and he talks me through a little bit about what went on in the church and his process through all that, stylesrebelradio.com. But, you know, this is the first show that we planned for October. Right off the bat, we knew we wanted to do this one. We knew we wanted to talk Scientology, especially with all the Danny Masterson stuff that we talked about 2 weeks prior.
It was super topical.
So it was fresh. Yeah. We knew we wanted to talk about Scientology, and we thought, you know, what's a good partner for Scientology here? And the easy answer for me was, you know, a lot of people think the Mormon Church is a cult. There's a big, debate about Mormonism because, again, that's a relatively new religion too.
Right.
And, they do some interesting things. They think Jesus was American and, white people were the first Native Americans. And there's a whole bunch we could talk about there. But for me, I want to talk about the Roman Catholic Church. And I know we're going to get flack for this. I know you're already ready to text in at 216-859-8699 or stylesrebelradio@gmail.com. But I want to talk about it because I don't think it's talked about enough. And it's conspiracy season, right?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about, I'm a little bit talking about the religion itself, but I want to talk about the Vatican. I want to talk about the Pope. I want to talk about the things we know that aren't discussed, the things that are hidden.
That's the thing is, we're not necessarily it's not the Roman Catholic religion is a conspiracy. That's not what we're saying.
Right.
It's the things that...
It's how it operates. Yeah,
it's how the Roman Catholic Church operates almost as more of a business or like a mob sort of thing that we're getting into as a, this is a conspiracy. There's a lot of weird, fishy stuff
we don't know.
Right, there's stuff going on here, and that's kind of more what we're touching on.
So let me preface with this. Obviously I sat down and did the interview with Tim for Scientology. I wanted to get that perspective. Yeah. I didn't want to go in and just, fuck Scientology, here's why. I wanted to at least understand where the Scientologist is coming from in it, right? To get that perspective. How does it work? Mm-hmm. How do they get these people in? Why is it so compelling? And why do people keep joining it and believing it? I had the same thought process as far as the Roman Catholic Church goes. I want to sit down with a devout Catholic. I want to sit down with I tried to, I contemplated reaching out to a pastor or a priest or someone in that regard.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, I ended up talking to a few Catholics that I know. Mm-hmm. And, we talked about the religion of it for a while as well. But again, I more so want to talk about the Vatican and the Pope and the inner workings of the Roman Catholic Church as an entity. Mm-hmm. And it seemed that every conversation I had started with we know that the Vatican and the Pope are corrupt. We know that there's, a lot that we don't agree with there, but that's not the end all be all to Catholicism. And I accepted that. I'm like, okay, I get that, because that is the issue I have. We go through an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour long conversation about Catholicism and the different, elements of the faith of it.
Right.
And at the end of the conversation, every single time, it seemed to get to, oh, well, we recognize this person as a saint, or this person as a bishop, or we do this, or we accept this rule over this rule, and we pray to this thing because the Vatican has deemed it holy, the Vatican has deemed it, this. We have to do this because the Vatican said it. We're disregarding the fact that we opened the conversation with, we know the Vatican's corrupt.
Yeah, and again, I think that's the... we can say the word again. We can call out Voldemort, but that's where the brainwashing is.
Yeah.
And it's religion. So there's a certain point where they just have to be like, well, this is what I believe.
Yeah.
I love Xenu. They just kind of have to
I love Xenu.
They have to jump that bridge and be like, well, the Vatican's a little corrupt, but maybe only
it's
a
like,
little. Maybe I just won't look into it.
Yeah.
It's like separating the art from the artist.
Yeah. It's that. I think it's that same thing. It's like, let me separate. I think that is like
the day I go into a Catholic church and I'm like, hey, what's going on with all the kid touching? Like, you got to separate the art from the artist, man. Come on.
Well, and I think
that's not a good look for your religion. Come on, you know that.
It's very telling that you don't see, at least, and again, they're probably out there, and I'm just missing them, ducking them. But you don't see too many devout young Catholics.
Yeah,
that's not really
I know one.
That's not a super hard market.
Yeah.
I feel like you see a lot of other religions that have more devout young people, and that's okay, yeah, that's normal. But I feel like and again, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just being ducked by all the young Catholic people. They don't want to hit my line, whatever. But
young Catholics, reach out to Shani.
Yeah, come on. What's going on? What's going on, guys? But I just don't see that often, and I think that that's very telling of how older people handle older Catholics handle their religion, and what we're talking about of the church is bad, but we love it, and we kind of just turn the other cheek, we kind of just turned a blind eye and pray to Jesus.
I want to get into that because I like to, especially with things like this, we're not talking about Bigfoot or Mothman where it's entirely speculation, conspiracy,
right,
for lack of an argument there. It's this is a real thing. Catholicism, it's not like huge. You said at the start, we're not Catholicism itself isn't the conspiracy.
Yeah.
It's what's going on in the church is the conspiracy.
Right.
And so I want to talk about some factual things, some things that we know that are documented, that have happened, that either brushed under the rug or not talked about, or just blatantly disregarded by practitioners of the Catholic faith, the Catholic Church, the Vatican, the Pope in general. And there's a bunch of places I could start. But I want to start with the fact that it was the Vatican and the Vatican City was deemed sovereign in 1929 by Mussolini.
Yeah.
The dictator, Hitler's buddy.
Yeah.
No one talks about that.
Yeah.
We know it's sovereign. We know it's tax-free. No one pays taxes in the Vatican. We know that. And when I say sovereign, if you don't know what that means, they are not under the law of Italy.
Yeah. They are free to do essentially what they...
Yeah.
They can't touch them.
They're Disneyland.
You can't touch them. The cops can't go there and arrest you for something.
The Pope has sovereign right. The Vatican itself has sovereign right, meaning it cannot be sued unless it consents to being sued.
Yeah, that's so crazy. That's so crazy.
Deemed sovereign by Mussolini in 1929, which big red flag to me, number one. Why isn't that a question that's asked more of we going to talk about that?
Yeah.
It seems like a big elephant.
Mussolini was a...
Dictator gave you your power.
Pretty sure he did that, and he did some really bad things. Last time I checked, Mussolini, not a great guy.
Now, in 1943, we're in World War II now. They were deemed neutral. They claimed that they remained neutral, which...
Sick.
Interesting stance.
Sick.
Entirely.
Sick.
I get you're Catholic, but at the end of the day, people are dying.
Yeah.
In the tens and hundreds, and people are dying.
A lot of them, and a lot of them Catholic.
Yeah.
Especially on our side, a lot of them Catholic. Come on.
Disregarding the Holocaust is a big red flag for the Catholic Church.
Yeah. The Nazi alliances, the Nazi, they what? Paid off?
Yeah, so let me clarify why I wanted to make it a point that the church said we are neutral on the matter of World War II and the Holocaust. Yeah. Interesting stance in and of itself. Yeah. But I guess the argument can be made of, oh, well, we're all people, right? If you want to make that argument, I can at least rationalize where you're coming from. What I can't rationalize is saying you're neutral and then every year collecting a church tax from Adolf Hitler. That's right. Adolf Hitler paid into the Roman Catholic Church and the Vatican every year. Sick. Every year. They also helped Nazis after World War II escape the punishments for war reparations and war crimes by fleeing Europe. The Roman Catholic Church played a huge part in the Vatican. I should preface because I let me clarify now. I have a bad habit of saying Roman Catholic Church, and 9 times out of 10, what I mean by that is the Vatican.
Yes.
The central church.
Yeah, because I feel like that's something that needs to be. The Roman Catholic Church is just the almost
the blanket religion.
The blanket religion. The Vatican is like the central hub.
Yeah.
Where the Pope lives.
The Sea Org.
Yeah. It's the Sea Org of Catholicism.
It's the Sea Org. Yeah.
But the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican, played a huge part in helping Nazis escape war crimes. They would relocate them to South America. They would give them routes to take, and they would help with the members of the Vatican, the bishops, and the church goers. Mm-hmm. Hey, we need you to have this guy in your home for this day, and then we're going to drive him here, and we're going to get him to South America. Nazis. They helped the Nazis. And I'm not just talking then, because they also had a deal with a major insurance provider in Italy during the Holocaust. Now, this deal was the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican, was going to pay into this insurance company. And in return, what the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican, received in this was when these families, these Jewish families, were murdered, when these Jewish families lost their lives because of the Holocaust, their belongings would default to the Vatican, to the Roman Catholic Church. Their bank accounts, their belongings would default to the Roman Catholic Church because they had paid into this insurance company. Why is that not talked about? And again, we're not into the conspiracy yet.
But
these are facts. These are things that are documented that happened that aren't talked about in the church. They aren't talked about by the church goers. Yet here we are in 2023, and the Vatican is still for lack of a better term, the higher power of the Catholic Church. That is the corporate level, if you will.
Pretty neutral on reaping the benefits of the Holocaust.
Yeah, they're acting pretty neutral on that one.
They're just
very Christian of them.
Yeah,
if I will say so myself.
Walking the straight and narrow. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Again, it's like you just have to
and I'm scratching the surface here.
Yeah. We're
12 minutes in, guys.
We're just getting started, but it's like the people just turn a blind eye. They're just like, well,
we're gonna follow what you say.
Yeah, this is our faith. This is this is what I believe in, so whatever. And it's
and even some of their saints aren't saints. They've killed people.
Yeah.
The whole that makes no sense to me in a whole.
And again, I want to stress the fact that I'm not here to harp on the religion itself. However, when I've had these discussions and I've asked, because I genuinely want to know. So if you can answer me better or provide more insight, I open the floor to it. 216-859-8699. But I want to know how this is acceptable within the faith. In 9 times out of 10, it's compared to the government. Oh, well, we know the government's corrupt and, we're just going to have to deal with it. So, I might not agree with a law that was made federally that really should have been a state's decision, but what am I going to do about it?
Right.
Well,
we can vote.
I was going to say, well, in a society, in a democratic republic like we have the power of vote. We can change that. If the Constitution specifically states when the government becomes corrupt, when the federal government exceeds its bounds, it is the duty of the people to overthrow said government.
Yeah.
That is our written right. And have we acted upon it like we should? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you could say the same for the Vatican and the Roman Catholic Church. But at that point and again, we're scratching the surface of corruptness. I'm only in 1943 and a little bit after.
I'm only in the 1940s. My mind's only in the 40s right now, guys. You have no idea.
I am rearing the end of World War II, and this argument's already being made that at this point in time, why are we not going, yeah, you know what, maybe this whole Vatican thing isn't working. We're going to get more into some modern issues here when we come back. 216-859-8699. If you're not listening live Monday at 5 p.m. on CBW Radio, I always encourage you to listen to the live show as well, even if you're going to catch the podcast, because you hear things you're not going to hear on the podcast. Like during the break, we played the late, great Trevor Moore's Modern Day Prophet, the Pope rap, and
rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Trevor Moore, man. You know, side conspiracy, because we always got to throw a couple of side conspiracies in October as well.
Always.
Trevor Moore put out that. Trevor Moore also put out the sketch of the things you can't say on radio involving the president, and then mysteriously died from a head injury. Fell off the balcony, huh? I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there. There might be some foul play. Just like there might be some foul play in the Catholic Church. We're back on the Rebel Radio Show talking about conspiracies in the Catholic Church. I'd also like to preface, when we went to break, we were talking about some of the dealings involving money, right? And the fact that, you're not allowed to know the transactions of the bank and the church's bank. That's because they have their own. They have their own Vatican bank that cannot be tracked by Western Union.
Sick.
Billions of dollars have been deposited in.
Sick.
Yeah,
super
that's
duper sick.
That's not sus at all. I know you guys have stuff you want to dive into as well, but I got to throw one last thing in here as far as the known history that is documented goes before we dive too deep into the conspiracies, and that is in 897 AD, former Pope Formosus was exhumed from his grave and made to stand trial against the current pope. This pope, the dead pope, the dead body, was given a translator to speak on his behalf.
Of course, as you would.
As you should.
As you would.
Fair and justice system.
Right.
And because he could not answer any of the questions that the pope was giving him, all of the things that he had, all of the rulings that the former pope had put into play were deemed null and void.
Of
because
course.
he couldn't stand trial.
He could. I mean, obviously, his translator couldn't translate for him. There was nothing said.
These are the things that before we even get into the big conspiracies, I want to know. I want answers. And we talked about it with Scientology, you get to OT3. And that seems like the pivotal point where you're like, all right, I was on board with the happiness and the clarity of mind, and then,
of course,
all getting along and getting rid of all my stress. I'm on board with that.
Right.
So this is like the OT3 moment where you're like, oh, the Galactic Federation's the reason we're here, where I have questions. Once you bring up to me, hey, we funded the Nazis. Wait a minute. Hang on. Time out. I have questions.
Yeah. Yeah. It starts to get a little dicey. I feel like the whole tittling on the little one.
Yeah. Let's dive into that, shall we?
I mean, it's not even a conspiracy so much as like
stop.
Well, the Vatican has revealed that they will expunge different priests who have already had cases of sexual abuse on them, and so then they'll be like, okay, well, we have to save face, so we'll let a batch go, essentially. We'll let the dirty dozen go, and we'll keep the rest.
They've also gone on record when knowing about these situations, they lie and then just move these priests around.
Yeah,
they'll just move them to a different church.
The apostolic, is it penitentiary? The apostolic penitentiary, that is their tribunal that does these, that deems if something can be forgiven by the church and the actions you take against it. They have their own secret,
that's so weird. That's so,
and you the have Scientologists do.
Yeah, it's like the Scientologists. Yeah.
again, it's a situation like 9/11 when we talked about that, right? I don't want to come in this and be like, hey, you're Catholic, fuck you, because that's not what I'm getting at. It's the scary realization that doing my research into Scientology and then into the Catholic Church, I found a lot of similarities.
Yeah. It's in doing the research, you're like, oh, okay, this is one that is deemed a religion/cult. This is one that is, and then you have on the other side,
it is the oldest religion. You know?
And then on the other side, you have the oldest religion. This is like the tried and true. This is what religion is, and yeah, it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of like how Scientology. Oh, that's kind of like how they do this, or that's how they do that. Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of overlapping in the way that they run things on both sides.
I feel like it's important to mention too, we've done a lot of conspiracies at this point, well over 30, I think. There's a decent chunk of that we've done. This is one of the ones where, Mothman I wanted to talk about. Mothman I was super hyped for, and I'm like, oh dude, this is gonna be great, big cryptid conspiracy. There's a lot to research that we don't know.
Right.
This isn't the Mandela effect where we're still questioning like what is reality. I don't want to sit here and admit that the Catholic Church has a lot of connections to the same thing Scientology does. I don't want to tell you that.
Right.
But
it's
that's
like
what I found.
Almost. It's like, fuck. Like,
hate to break it to you.
Yeah, this theory, guys,
you guys
is
are
like
actually OT3s.
Kind of fucked. Yeah, you guys are about to meet Xenu. Like, no idea. So
let's get, because I'm assuming when most people heard conspiracies in the Catholic Church, that's where their mind went to, was the kid diddling. Mm-hmm. So let's get into it. I'm sure you guys have plenty on this too.
Yeah.
All right. I have like a couple of things. More recently, like not the 40s or AD.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I had to give the history lesson first.
It's a little bit closer to home. There's some activists that are reaching out, and also some. I don't want to say victims, but
sure, victims.
Some
that's what at least what this article here is saying.
All right.
They say victims. I feel like that's fair.
Yeah.
If what is being said is true.
We'll use Fox 19's words for it.
All right. So, a group of these sexual assault victims that were related to the Catholic Church, and as well as some activists, are working towards getting the Ohio Attorney General to actually deep dive into at least our Catholic churches around home.
Yeah, it says investigate all 6 dioceses, which are like the different, I think, like necks of the wood.
Yeah.
The churches.
So they're trying to get him to deep dive into all of these churches around here and actually get some of these corrupt priests out of power.
So let me ask you this, because I feel like, again, this is me. I feel like this has probably been done, and this is probably a well-documented thing of, we get the police involved, and they start this investigation. How many of these Catholic priests, because they are under the Roman Catholic Church, go, oh shit, hey, they're going to find some fucked up stuff I've done. Hey, Roman Catholic Church, can you do something about this? Can you move me somewhere else?
A lot of the times that is what happens. There's another article that I have that highlights the intricacies of when they do expose that they have done these events.
Yeah.
That the Pope will just expunge them of their sins, and he'll be like, all right, we're going to put you in like some training or whatever, and then you're going to a new church.
Yeah. That's pretty. So here it said, this is New York Times. Historically, the church withheld information about priests who were sexually abusive, often moving them from parish to parish without informing people in the pews. The reports have pushed many dioceses to publish or update their own list of credible accused clergy members. So
they just lie. Don't tell anybody in the public that are sitting in these churches that, hey, your kid may have been touched by this priest,
right.
But never mind, we got a new one.
Yeah.
That just pisses me off.
That's the thing, man. And again, is it really conspiracy?
No,
it's
not. If
factual.
If they themselves are like, yeah, okay, we're
doing this.
We're doing this shit. Yeah, we're here. We're releasing these people, or these people are moving. We're like, they're just admitting to it, but it's like a step around admitting to it. They're beating around the bush of admitting to it.
My conspiracy is how people of the Catholic faith will see this and be like, oh, nope, that's fucked up. Anyway, back to church. Right.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, they walk into church, they have a new priest, and they're like, oh, that's just a Catholic church. We just got a new priest today.
Brought to you from the church that puts dead people on trial, funds the Nazis, and relocates pedophiles near your kids.
Yeah.
Like, that's
not a good stance for your church.
Well, again, it's like that's the faith aspect of it. They just like they're blind to, they're just like, well, put our noses down and keep praying.
Yeah, I do have a statistic, and funny enough, a lot of my notes and research comes from a website called, let me make sure I get this right too, because I don't want to misinform, thevaticantickets.com, which I don't believe they're directly in relation to the Vatican. Like, I don't think this is the Vatican's site. However, there is a gift shop at the Vatican, in Vatican City, that you can buy stuff from the Vatican, so you got to get that monetary value. Don't miss on that. You can take tours. But this place offers tours of Vatican City and the Vatican. I believe it is a third-party company.
Yeah, I would hope.
Yeah, I would hope they're not being this upfront.
I would hope.
You know what? I wish they would be this upfront, but I don't believe they are.
Yeah.
But one of the things in here is about exactly what we're talking about. And since 2021, this is a 2021 statistic, 6,000 plus clergy of the Catholic Church have been accused of sexual assaults in the youth, and in the U.S., 2,458 in child sexual assault.
Yeah, I have here, and this is from CBS. It's 3,400 cases of abuse have reported, and then they have been those cases have been expunged since 2004.
Well, I've got a little bit more of the conspiracy side involving that when we come back to break. If you have any conspiracies or anything you want to chime in on during that time, 216-859-8699. I cannot stress this enough. The conspiracy with the Vatican and Roman Catholic Church is the fact that I want to know why it's being covered up and why it's not being talked about. That's the conspiracy. The conspiracy is the fact that all of this is out there, yet none of it's acknowledged, and we go on as if it's not.
Well, I think you answered your own question earlier when you were like, this is the oldest known religion. Mm-hmm. It's the oldest known religion. You got to think, why aren't the cops doing anything about this? Because a lot of the cops are Catholic. Yeah. Why aren't people in the government doing this? Because a lot of people in the government are Catholic. Catholicism is so deep rooted, especially in American culture and Western culture, that it's like, yeah, no shit, they run everything. They started running everything when we only had 3 digits in our years.
Yeah.
They've been
running it since dead people could be put on trial.
Yeah, it's just they've been doing it for so long that everyone's a part of everyone's Catholic, so you're not gonna stop them.
That's a great point too, because I did get into a little bit of the conspiracy discussion when I talked to these people, these Catholics that I know, and part of it did come down to, well, I think a lot of the cover up is in the media. I'm sure that the media gets a nice payout, or there's some kind of government connection there. I'm sure there is in America, just like there is in Italy. Excuse me.
Right.
It's clearly we have a documented history of the Catholic Church doing something very corrupt, and that is taking bribes directly from Hitler, number one.
Yeah.
But from Italy as well as a government and their insurance companies to illegally, in my sense, illegally profit off the death of all these Jewish families during the Holocaust. We have a history of them taking money. We have a history of them hiding money. Yeah. So it's not unreasonable to think that, there's probably those same ties to America, to the American media, to the American government.
Right. And how we as Americans look at Catholicism and view, and how we were talking about it a little bit off air, but older Catholics are way more devout and stern, staunch into it, and they're the ones that are okay, we will look away. And
I think that's across the board with religion. I think most older generations are more gung-ho for religion than younger generations.
I don't disagree. That's a good point. That's valid.
Let me put it this way, though. When it comes to... I made the comparison earlier about the Roman Catholic Church and Scientology, right? And the fact that I saw a lot of similarities between them. one thing that kept getting brought up as an argument during this was, the hierarchy of the Catholic Church to me doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why, if you're following your faith, you need some guy who directly opposes what the Bible says of having a better connection to God than you.
Yeah.
Who has this divine right and is assigned divine powers and has national sovereignty because he's a closer figure to God than you are.
That's such a weird aspect of it.
Right.
Is the fact that the Pope is like one with God, or not one with God, but like touched by God.
Yeah, is chosen, is appointed.
Yeah.
That's a weird concept in itself. But not even just the Pope, but he has bishops and a council, and we have the council that determines whether someone can be forgiven inside the church, and we have a council that decides who's a saint and who's not a saint, and if they're officially recognized. That aspect of it to me was like, I'm like, this is where the corruption comes from. The Bible does not say that you need leveled government to control your religion. That's not what it says.
Yeah, right.
And then the argument that keep coming back to, well, it's a translation thing of, we have different words for bishops and we have different words for popes. I'm like, I guess you can make that argument, but you can't sit here and in that same breath tell me, the corruption comes from this. You can see that they're taking money illegally. You can see that all this wrongdoing is happening because of money. You can see that it's a sovereign nation because of a dictator. You can see that all of this corruption is happening because of this community that has protected itself under the guise of being good Catholics, and then sit here and say, yeah, but it's a translation thing. It's not. That's people being bad people thing. That is a corruption thing. That is a level of government-esque. Yeah. We know that this is bad. Let's put a stop to it. And that's not saying you have to stop practicing Catholicism. That's saying you realize as a whole, and I think more and more people are realizing this, but I don't think as Catholicism as a whole, as a group of a religious group, are realizing enough to the extent of, hey, we don't need to abide by this. This doesn't make any damn sense. Yeah. Clearly, we're being taken for a ride here. Yeah. That's my issue. The comparison that I kept getting was, okay, well, you have that in every religion, though. And the one person that kept getting thrown out was Joel Osteen for Christians. Yes, unfortunately, there's a lot of bad Christians, too, and it goes for any religion. He was a televangelist that was taking all the money for himself. Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, yeah, no, he was a good Christian leader. But that's where we differ, is I've never considered Joel Osteen a leader. He was a guy who was quote-unquote Christian who had a TV program.
Any of those televangelists, anything like that, where you're preaching to a larger audience and benefiting off of that, and like those people have like private jets and shit like that. They're making stupid amounts of money.
They're 501c3s. Yeah.
I think the difference comes in to where, like, Christianity, we have our pastors and whatever, but like they aren't anybody of importance.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, and
they're the same as me, and they go to the same grocery store, and they don't have to.
There is no hierarchy. The way I explained it, and for some reason, this was still a controversial point that came in this conversation I had, was, we have pastors in a Christian church, and sure, there's deacons and maybe there's a ministry team, right? But they're not held to a higher level. The reason he's the pastor and I'm not is he has studied the Bible more than I have, and so I feel comfortable going there to learn about it and hear what he has to say about it.
I trust that he is a knowledgeable source, and so I choose to continue to listen.
His job is to relay what's in that book to me to learn. Right? That is it. His job is not to deem who's a saint and who's holier than who and what can be forgiven. That's not his job.
And there are corrupt Christian churches.
Sure,
100%.
But that's on yourself as a goer and to notice and leave and find a new church.
So let me bring that full circle, right? In a Christian church, there is no hierarchy. There's no super church that is the higher level. We'll relate it to federal government again, right? If, the church you go to is a state church or is a state government, right? That's your state house, right? There is no federal level for Christianity. There's no big boy upstairs who they're all reporting back to or talking about if their decisions were right or wrong.
Right.
That's the Vatican. The Vatican has their own sets of rules and laws and popes and bishops and all of this. They have a corporate level.
They have a White House.
Yeah. Joel Osteen is just some guy who claimed to be Christian who swindled a lot of people, unfortunately.
Just a good salesman.
He was never a leader of the Christian community. He was never deemed as anyone more important than, number one, any other pastor, if we're going to use the term pastor for him. But he was never deemed, as a leader of the community. He's just some guy who had a TV program who swindled a lot of fucking people and was a bad person. Like, that's the difference between it. And if I'm a Christian and I'm going to church and I see, oh, they're not professing what's in the Bible, it's my duty to leave and go to a new church that is. You know, it's a false prophet. The Bible talks about false prophets. There you go. So what do? You leave. You don't listen to false prophets. Yeah. That's the difference. Is in Catholicism, your church may not be, you know, promoting falsehoods. You may be following the Bible, you know, right along with it. Mm-hmm. If the Catholic Church makes a ruling that then affects your church, or your church is somehow affected by, you know, the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican, in the sense that, oh no, well now, you know, this guy's our leader. Yeah. Something changed. We had to get rid of this pope. This is the new pope. We need to recognize this guy's importance. Yeah. No, we don't. No, we don't. That's your job to leave that. So as a whole, across the board, Catholicism, I think, needs to make that realization of, oh, that's corrupt. It's our job not to follow that. Yeah. That's my opinion.
It's such a confusing, like, it's such a tough thing to convey.
Because they have to, like, step out of not even just, like, the religion. They just have to step out of their mindset.
Yeah, of what they're normally used to thinking. Yeah. And they have to, it's almost like you have to, it's like a lightning bolt. You know, you have to, like, catch that perfect moment of, like, okay.
Oh, that's happening.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's really crazy, stuff like that. I had a go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I had an instance recently where I went. It's funny that you were talking about, like, just go to a different church. Me and my girlfriend tried a new church. We try to go to church every Sunday. We went to try a new church maybe like a month ago, and we walked out and we were both like, this just felt like an ad or something like that. It felt like a sales pitch. It felt really, we're like, this didn't feel like what church feels like. Like, it felt very weird. And I wonder if, like, that's how Catholics will feel at some point, like walking out, if they get that same thing of like, that didn't feel like how it normally feel. Like, that one felt a little different, you know?
And don't get me wrong. I am against, my biggest problem with this is the fact that it, like Scientology, operates like an organization. Mm-hmm. It operates like a hierarchy, like a government, like an organization. And I'm against that at all levels. I have been recommended, and I've been to churches where it's like, oh, you're at this church, but we have 3 different locations, and it's all the same church, and it's more of a show and a merchandising thing, and we have a logo, and we have merch. I don't want that. I don't want to go. I'm not here to support your indie startup.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I'm against it in all aspects. So it's not, when I talk about that aspect of it, it's not just the Catholic Church, but they are taking that and multiplying it to the 10th degree. Now, that being said, you know, we have that all on the surface level. There's the conspiracy of, you know, why does their bank have to be hidden? You know, why is that allowed? What's the money actually going to? There's also, you know, the conspiracy of what is in the Vatican secret archives, because that's the thing too.
Yeah, what's going on in there? They have a lot of documents that they can just keep secret and, like, keep to themselves, can't show outside of the church. Again, it's one of those levels thing.
What's
you have
the
to
point of keeping those documents?
Well, to my knowledge, only the Pope can see those. I could be wrong. It could be a couple different levels.
Okay, I didn't know if there was, like,
might be
once you get past OT3, you know.
Again, we're gonna draw the similarities there.
Right.
But they do have secret documents that aren't accessible to the public, and that's a lot of the conspiracy around the Vatican itself. And it seems like the most commonly accepted theory involving those is it's a collection of CP.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about cheese pizza, you know, but I don't want to get kicked off Spotify or anything else for saying that, but, you know, it involves the kiddos. That's the number one running theory about what is in that secret archive.
Well, there's been instances where these priests that have been involved in these sexual abuse acts have been caught, and most of them have recorded these instances. So it very well could be priest recordings.
I mean,
that would make the most sense, you know.
That does make sense, actually. It's backed by the Museum of Erotica. Is also a big factor in, like, they're saying that that's what's in the vault. Just as some reference, that is, you know, an organization that is saying that is
that's what's going on.
What's going on there? Some other conspiracies. I know we're running thin on time here. Say it's evidence of extraterrestrial life.
Why would the church have that?
Yeah.
Well, again, I think it's just they've been around for so long that they have this big vault of secrets, essentially, secret document. I think it's just kind of like, well, what's important information that we don't want the people knowing or shit like, I think you can lump any of that into those Vatican archives of like, what's something that we wouldn't want the people to know about? Yeah, bad shit like that, or alien, or, like just whatever. Throw it in the fucking Vatican vault, whatever. Yeah. Like, I think that's kind of, at least, that's where my...
Vatican vault's just a tell-all?
That's kind of is, like, anything that they wouldn't want, because you got to think that, like, even in the early days, they still had, like, a government-esque formation, or, like, how the hierarchy of the church worked. So it's, like, you have to assume that they were trying to, even back then, run their people in the Vatican City a certain way and wanted them, and so certain news or like maybe this came in from across the world and this is some big globe shattering news, let's hide it really quick.
Like withholding information until you get to a certain level?
Pretty much.
Damn, that sounds an awful lot like the works of L. Ron Hubbard.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Battlefield Earth.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Another big conspiracy is that it's some kind of tie to the Illuminati, some kind of documentation in there. And I don't think that's a far off one either.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I would believe it.
We talked about the theory that, maybe there is a lot of connection between the federal government, the media in America and the Vatican. And, I think the Illuminati might be the linking, the thing that links them together there. There is in Catholicism some like sect of Freemasons. And when we talked about the Illuminati, it tracked back to a lot of Freemasons. So there could be that overlap there. I don't think that's a very out there theory.
And it could just be...
very plausible to assume that the Vatican has ties with multiple secret societies just because of, again, Catholicism.
It's also Catholicism in its whole is very secretive, and you can keep your secrets there.
I was going to say, why do you think maybe this stuff isn't talked about or isn't allowed to be talked about?
They could have billions of dollars just funneled in just to keep their secrets.
Mm-hmm. I mean, from everything we hear about the Illuminati, essentially their whole thing is, hey, you don't speak out about what you know, and if you do, there's going to be consequences, right? That's the whole stigma behind them.
Yeah, it seems like those two things just kind of go hand in hand, like that and the whole Roman Catholic Church as a whole just kind of go hand, and they work very well together. Like, oh, you're good at keeping secrets? We're good at keeping secrets.
That's how it started, actually.
Yeah. Just keep each other's secrets.
There's so much. There's so much, man. Like,
yeah, it's just so littered throughout all of history. Like, you can go to any point in history and be like, okay, what did the Roman Catholic Church do around this time that was a little bit funky? And you can find, it might not be groundbreaking or it might not be like super crazy, but like
there's examples.
Yeah, right.
Through history.
There's always examples.
And again,
and it's crazy. I'm sorry, but I keep going back in my mind to when Shane said that, like, even a lot of people in our public, like, society are Catholic. Like, it's just crazy how much could be covered up just in the sake of Catholicism.
I mean, when we talked about Scientology, we talked about the fact that there's cities that have police and police chiefs that are tied into Scientology. So
Scientology was trying to cover up Danny Masterson's abuse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's wild.
It's crazy to me that we can sit here and Scientology's blatantly a cult. Mm-hmm. And then we talk about, oh, well, they're covering up sexual abuse. Catholic Church is covering up sexual abuse. Yeah. Well, they don't disclose what they're doing with all their money. Catholic Church doesn't. They have a hierarchy, government-like structure. So does the Catholic Church.
Right. It's kind of, birds of a feather.
Right.
Yeah, they're very similar in that way. And it's very interesting that Scientology has one very, like, clear viewpoint by the majority of society is like, that's a little weird. Scientology is a little weird. Maybe I don't know much about it, but overall...
But dress it up as Catholicism and they're in.
Right. But then you say, well, this is the Roman Catholic Church. You're a Catholic. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, this is totally normal. This is totally, we totally just, whatever. They used to be pedophiles. Not a big deal now.
Yeah.
It's like,
they've been forgiven.
Yeah. Super strange. Again, like, it seems like L. Ron Hubbard was trying to make a Catholicism. Yeah. He was really aiming for that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, even Tim, he said that this isn't like an obscure thought.
Like, he said these aren't really original thoughts. He's just curated them better than other people have. Well, here you go, man. I mean,
Do I think that I could buy into the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church a little bit better than I could buy into, what's his name?
Xenu?
Xenu showing up on a...
How can you forget about Overlord Xenu?
showing up on a jet and dropping people into a volcano?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's, a little more out
believable.
there. Yeah.
Right. Right.
But there's so much similarities, and by design, probably L. Ron Hubbard looked at it and went, oh, this is gaining traction as a religion.
Yeah.
Let me look at the most common religion and see how they structure their government-like tier level.
Right. Super interesting. Just very because you can almost see that, how he started with the Dianetics, and that was kind of just okay, this is just
level 1.
Yeah, this is just what you could be. You could try this if you wanted
like that?
to. Yeah, he's but then Dianetics started blowing up, and he's like, oh fuck, I got a capital. I got to do something with this now. Look I could totally do what they're doing over here at the Roman Catholic Church. Boom, Scientology.
Yeah, honestly.
Xenu, boom, right there.
Boom, aliens threw you in a volcano.
He's
nuclear bombs.
I gotta be tax exempt too.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's another thing too. They're both tax exempt.
Right.
There's so many damn similarities that you can't sit here and tell me that Roman Catholic Church
is operating functionally.
You couldn't possibly have conspiracies about it and then sit here in the same breath and say, oh well, Scientology is obviously a cult.
Right.
That is the overarching thing for me. Is you gotta be able to distinguish it.
I need a Venn diagram of
how many overarches there are.
Yeah.
Scientology, Catholicism.
Yeah.
Because it's just it's. Again, it's one of those things where I think Catholicism has been around for longer, so it's just more societally
accepted.
Right. It's just, you're just Catholic. Okay.
Man, if Catholicism was started in 1954, how different this conversation would be.
L. Ron Hubbard was really shooting for the stars, man. He was going big.
We're the new Catholics.
Yeah.
That's what we are. Ask Xenu.
The Roman Catholic Church walked so that L. Ron Hubbard could run.
Again, I encourage everybody to do their own research, and I want to know what you think about the conspiracies around Scientology as well as the Roman Catholic Church, because again, you can't have conspiracy season without your input and doing a little bit more research. 216-859-8699 is that number if you want to text into the show. It's open 24/7, 365, and just like CBW Radio, it's always live. It's uncut, it's uncensored. CBWRadio.com, of course, the homepage. You get all the show times and more there as well. StylesRebelRadio.com. You can check out the full 32-minute interview right now with Tim. He's a 30-year plus Scientologist, an OT5, and he'll walk you through his experience in the Church of Scientology, how he got into it, how he got out of it, and everything in between there for more insight. Of course, I'm Radio's Rebel DJ Styles. I'm my right is Cheney.
Bye, everyone.
On the board is Jules.
Adios.
Until next time when we come back with more conspiracies about MK Ultra and the Dead Baby Project, I've been Radio's Rebel DJ Style. Peace.
The preceding program was a WSRR radio production.